happening, Magnus sites? The Cosmic Wonder got some new news for us. This time about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and the villain. Is it going to be Galactus? A lot of people keep talking about it being Galactus. By this thumbnail, I don't know who that is. So, let's check this out, shall we?
What's going on, everybody? It's Warren. Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder, where we talk all things Marvel and MCU, and it's been a while since we've gotten some Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 news. But today we actually have some very, very exciting news about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, news about the villain, and some pretty big plot details, I think. So we're going to talk about who the villain most likely is, and then I'm going to do a lot of connecting the dots and tell you what I think is actually going to be happening in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And I should warn you, James Gunn and the cast really already came out and said that people are gonna die in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. James Gunn said this, and the cast said that they cried reading the script. So I think we can at least expect one death in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Maybe even more. And since this particular villain is most likely the villain of Guardians 3, it's understandable because he is one of Marvel's most powerful and complex villains. So, let's dive into it, but if you're new, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on
Groot died in the first one.
So, first things first, two things that you need to know about Guardians 3. One, Adam Warlock is confirmed. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 left us with that Adam post-credit scene. Right. But since Guardians got pushed back and James Gunn was off of Guardians and then he was back on, people were wondering if he was actually coming. Well, yes, it is confirmed. He is going to be played by Will Poulter. And the second thing is that actor Chukwudi Iwuji is confirmed to be in the movie and is most likely the main villain. They haven't outright stated that he's the villain, but everything that they've said about the character leads us to believe that, yes, he's indeed the main villain. And the main villain that I believe him to be is the High Evolutionary. If you're not aware who the High Evolutionary is, I'll go over the origin briefly, but he is basically a god-like cosmic being. One that has gone head-to-head with Galactus himself. Okay. And it actually fits perfectly with the story of Guardians 3 if you consider the Sovereign and Aisha and the fact that Adam Warlock is coming. And we actually kind of get tied into the Scarlet Witch, which would connect Guardians to, really, Earth. Because most of what happens with the Guardians happens off Earth. But first and foremost, let's talk about what Chukwudi recently had to say about his character in Guardians 3. Now, Chukwudi plays one of the main characters in the Peacemaker series on HBO Max. The show's great, and he is great in it. And in an interview about his role with The Hollywood Reporter, he did talk about his upcoming role with Guardians. He talks about when he was first cast and about how powerful his character is. And here's what he had to say to The Hollywood Reporter. It was near the beginning of production. I knew very early. It was a crazy time. For that to be offered to me so early in production, it was a big deal for me. I think it was around April, maybe March of 2021, but we didn't do the test screen until May or something like that, so it was pretty early. James had seen enough of me at that stage to decide he wanted me to be a part of Guardians. And when asked to vaguely describe his character in Guardians, this is what he said. Powerful. Extremely powerful. Complex. James and I were talking about it, but he's certainly one of, if not the most complex character we've seen in the freaking Marvel Universe. So, he's deeply complex and deeply powerful, and I hope intriguing. I hope I bring that to it. Now, to me, right off the bat, it sounds like he is playing the High Evolutionary. Now, there were some rumblings that have been going on for quite some time now, stating that the High Evolutionary might be the main villain. Then, of course, we had all of those Mark Hamill rumors. Mark Hamill is going to be playing the High Evolutionary. But Mark has come out and denied those rumors. And normally, if somebody denies rumors, I would still say, well, that doesn't mean anything. But since they did cast Chukwudi, I'm saying that Chukwudi is going to play him and not Mark. And the High Evolutionary is complex and very powerful. But it makes a lot of sense for Guardians plot-wise, and here's why. The High Evolutionary, once known as the man Herbert Edgar Wyndham, started off as a normal man, well, sort of, genetically at least, but he started off as a man that was very interested in the work of genetic biologist Nathaniel Essick, who is known as the villain, Mr. Sinister. So he began experimenting with genetic manipulation. He would start by trying to evolve rats in his mother's basement. Then, at a genetics convention, he was given the papers for blueprints to cracking the genetic code, in which he successfully developed a serum that he called Isotope A. Now from here, he managed to evolve his pet Dalmatian into a humanoid life form with the intelligence of a chimpanzee. Sadly, the dog would be shot by poachers, and here's where things get very, very interesting. He realized that his creations wouldn't have a place in the normal world. So with the help of Jonathan Drew, the father of Jessica Drew, who is Spider-Woman in the comics, they moved to Wundagore Mountain. And as some of you may know, this is where the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were born. There they discovered a ton of uranium, which they used as funding. They built a citadel of science and got Moloid slaves. Now eventually they would find out that the uranium was poisonous. Jessica Drew got sick and Jonathan left to avoid getting sick as well. Okay. But Wyndham stayed and he made himself a suit of armor. This armor protected him from the poisoning, and from here he made genetic breakthroughs, evolving animals into half-animal, half-man type beings, calling them the New Men. He'd then begin to train these men in combat and chivalry, and they would be dubbed the Knights of Wundagore, and they refer to him now as the Lord High Evolutionary. Now from here, things get a little weird. Using the Darkhold, Baron Russoff attempted to use it to heal himself, but what he actually did was freed Cthulhu, the ancient elder evil god. On the same night, a pregnant woman named Magda visited the Citadel to seek refuge. Now, they managed to send Cthulhu back, but a part of Cthulhu actually touched the girl. This, of course, is Wanda Maximoff, who would later go on to have chaos magic because of this. See how it's all starting to connect? And now I'll connect it even more. He eventually converted his citadel into a spaceship, and then he left Earth exploring the stars with his new men and trying to find another planet. Eventually he did find another planet and he tried to replicate Earth. Now he actually had captured the Hulk at this point, but his new men started to revolt against him and they attacked him. Now the High Evolutionary had a serum that he wanted to give Hulk that would advance him 1,000,000 years, but since he himself was about to die, he used it on himself to heal himself, and the result was that he turned himself into a god-like being. He was then kind of repulsed by himself, so he devolved the surviving human back to their original animal states, and then he willed his own existence to dissolve, and he became one with the cosmos. Now, eventually, he would take human form again to finish his creation, Counter-Earth. But unfortunately, one of Galactus' heralds found out about Counter-Earth, and Galactus decided that he wanted to devour that planet. Now, he went up against the High Evolutionary, and Galactus did beat the High Evolutionary. Now, luckily, somebody tricked him to go into a different planet. But check this out. The High Evolutionary actually adopts Adam Warlock, and he is the one that actually gives Adam Warlock the Soul Gem. And eventually, when the Beyonders attack Counter-Earth, they manipulated Adam Warlock into killing the High Evolutionary, but he was later revived by Moondragon and Adam Warlock's counterpart, Her. Now, Her is Aisha from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, who we believe is making Adam Warlock. But perhaps the High Evolutionary is actually behind the Sovereign, because if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. They are a race of what they believe to be perfect beings. In fact, they no longer procreate the normal way, they simply make their race. This kind of sounds like the High Evolutionary, since he's about genetic mutation and evolution. So that's what I'm thinking is happening in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I think the High Evolutionary is actually in charge of the Sovereign. I think Aisha works for him, and I think he is actually going to be the creator of Adam Warlock. And if you're wondering about this complex and ultra-powerful character, here are his powers. Superhuman intelligence, telepathy, telekinesis, precognition, and cosmic awareness, matter and energy manipulation, size manipulation, and he has sentient armor, which gives him superhuman strength, durability, and vast regeneration capabilities. He's basically a god. And as you can see, he's a very complex character. Eventually, he would go back to Earth in the comics and kind of become unstable. He would kind of go crazy and kind of get evil, which is why I think they're saying that this character is complex, but also ultra-powerful because he has the powers of a god, essentially. So I think that the Guardians of the Galaxy definitely are not done with the Sovereign, and I think the leader of the Sovereign is the High Evolutionary, who I believe will be played by Chukwudi Owuji. But let me know what you think about this in the comments.
I don't know. Your guess is good as mine.
Somebody else or the High Evolutionary. Let me know how excited you are about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Don't forget to like the video, and for live updates, you can always follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And as always, thank you all so much for watching.
Woof woof. I enjoyed the first Guardians of the Galaxy. The second one was okay with me. I didn't think it was a bad movie, but it was okay. I didn't buy it. I bought the first one. Enjoyed that. Bought it in 3D on 3D Blu-ray, baby. But Hi, Evolutionary. I don't know if that's who it is. I mean, my guess is as good as Cosmic's on this. I'm trusting Cosmic. I've been following Cosmic for several months now, so I believe that that's who it definitely could be. Many people were saying Galactus. We shall see. You know what I mean? So we'll find out. We're gonna find out. Let me know what y'all think. This dude is basically a god, so there's a lot of god-like characters in Marvel. You know, so we'll see. We shall see. Post comments down below. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed my reaction to this news, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and share. Woo!